welcome to this episode of Vaartaalaap. Great to have you today. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
Great. And for our listeners, Kirsten is based out in UAE. She has over 20 plus years of consulting and project management experience. She has worked in different industries from banking, insurance to retail, telecommunication, and with government departments too. In 2019, Kirsten set up a Rising Phoenix consultancy, a cross-sector consultancy based out of UAE, which serves customers in Middle East region, both SMEs and large corporates, international companies. Anything that I missed, Kirsten, that you wish to add?
No, I think you're very complete, so thanks for the intro.
Great. So, what made me very curious was you are based out in UAE. How do you find the innovation ecosystem in UAE, specifically regarding startups or dealing in digital technologies?
A good question, actually. I must say the startup climate specifically in the UAE is pretty good.
Okay.
You do see a lot of accelerators, incubators here, and also startup competitions.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of effort done in that area, and you can also see that the government here also really focuses on like new technology, like artificial intelligence, etc. So they support it.
Okay. And you have set up your own consultancy in 2019. How have you seen its evolution? Any good success stories that you wish to share with us?
What you do see, and probably that doesn't come as a surprise, if you start something new like a consultancy, it's quite hard at the start because
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows you.
Right.
I come from another country. I'm originally from the Netherlands.
Right.
Yes, I've worked here for companies, but it's different when you start your own company and you
Right.
also realize like at one moment you have to do everything. You're on your
Mm-hmm.
own, so you need to do your business development. You have to like get your clients, be out there, work on your brand identity, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that was very challenging,
Mm-hmm.
and it took quite a while to really get call it kick started.
Mm-hmm.
I must say, like if we talk about success stories, it is not so much that I say a specific client, but what
Okay.
I say is a success story is also about finding the right collaborations in the
Mm-hmm.
market.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I did find also recently, as well as end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically with the current situation, the current challenges with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
it is really good to have collaborations as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
specifically as a solo entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You need them. You need them to get out there and also to build that whole, yeah, I call it brand identity. So for me, that's the brand identity around Rising Phoenix.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned about those challenges. So, being in UAE and you come from Netherlands, how difficult it was for you to adapt to cultural differences, or be it able to hire people, or engage with people, or even to raise funds?
Okay, we can skip, I think, part of that. So I don't have to raise funds because I'm more like a consultancy. Would
Sure.
be different if I would be a startup in like machine learning or artificial intelligence. They
Right.
need the funds. Currently, I also work on my own or with business partners, and
Okay.
where we need other people, we would like look in the market and we would
Mm-hmm.
check which other people are like knowledgeable to do this.
Right.
But going back to the differences, which is a great question again,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we do have quite some cultural differences when you compare Middle East with, for instance, a country like the Netherlands.
Right.
So I came here about 5 years ago on
Mm-hmm.
a assignment here,
Mm-hmm.
and I always thought I was very adaptive, like
Mm-hmm.
a flexible, adaptive person.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was that maybe in our Dutch perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but here I learned so much. I learned to have patience. Yeah, and
Okay.
I think I don't have to fully explain that to you, but maybe for
Right.
the audience.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, in Germany, if you arrange a meeting, for instance, at 9 a.m., you are
Mm-hmm.
there at 9
Right.
a.m.,
Right.
or you're even there 10 minutes earlier.
Right.
Here, I really had to get used to people either not showing up,
Mm-hmm.
being half an hour late, an hour late,
Okay.
sometimes without even messaging you. And
Mm-hmm.
that was quite hard. And also the patience you need to have in um, getting, like, how do you say that? Either getting deals done or
Mm-hmm.
getting like next appointments. It's calmer, and it's also more when it's the good time, it is the good time, and we
Mm-hmm.
are more rushed in that sense in
Okay.
like back in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, what I did learn as well, and that's really great, it is a cultural melting pot here in
Mm-hmm.
Dubai,
Mm-hmm.
and it has definitely sorry, added value to work with people from different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
One of my life mottos is actually never stop learning.
Right.
I can truly say I never stop learning. I learn something every day, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's something small.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So does that answer your question?
It does. I think it gives a very good perspective of you coming from a European background, and I can relate to it. I lived in Germany for close to 6 years, and
Look,
I had traits in me about punctuality from childhood, so it was easy for me to adapt in Germany.
yes, I
I
can
lived in France.
imagine.
I lived in France briefly as well, and there they always talk about and the joke about that they never come on time in meetings, whereas the
Yes,
Germans do.
yeah,
So they always talk about that. So I could relate
yes,
to your experience very
yes.
clearly.
And maybe I can add something else to that. Also, in general, Dutch people are quite open and direct.
Yeah.
And that is also something I am still like that here, because I think it is good to be honest and
Hmm.
to be open and direct. But sometimes, of course, you also need to be political, or you need to like think, okay, how does this come across to the other
Hmm.
person who's
Hmm.
maybe not used to that directness or openness? So that is something you just learn without jeopardizing your own identity, because that
Sure.
is important too.
Sure. So one of the other things about you being an entrepreneur is you are also a woman, and there are specific challenges of starting a business for a woman, and that too in a country like Middle East. Did you find any obstacles in starting your business, uh, as you would have probably done in say Netherlands or anywhere else in Europe?
Well, the funny thing is, I haven't experienced it like that.
Okay.
I must say, I think there is a lot of support amongst women here.
Okay.
So I'm mainly talking about Dubai, to
Mm.
be also honest, because I can't compare it with countries like Egypt or like other Middle Eastern countries.
Right.
Uh, but what you see here is that women amongst each other, so also
Mm.
the entrepreneurs, are very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is something I haven't really experienced back in Europe. I don't say it's not there. I
Mm-hmm.
just say I haven't experienced that.
Okay.
And there was more a competitive character, a competitive sense between women. So if you
Mm-hmm.
went to network meetings, you always had the feeling like, are you really happy for me, or like, or do you really want to help me?
Mm-hmm.
It's not always like the best feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Here here it's also you give, and you get as well, and you get things in return. What I also see right now for
Mm-hmm.
women here, and that is, I think, also in general,
Mm-hmm.
due to the circumstances right now, with like working a lot from home,
Right.
obviously,
Right.
there are more chances also for women for entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
specifically women who might not be able to do things like completely full time, or do need to be home for a part. You
Mm-hmm.
can see that ideas are coming up as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
really like that. I really like that. So, coming back to your question, I don't think I really had challenges to open my business. There were other challenges, and these have nothing to do with
Mm-hmm.
being a woman, like these simple, it's not so simple, challenges of opening a bank account. That
Right.
is quite difficult. or to really get started. But being a woman, no, no, no. Maybe
Okay.
also I'm used to work in a very male-dominated world, so
Okay.
so you just deal with it.
So it's great that you felt empowered in your current location. I believe then that's the right word to say.
Yes, that's absolutely the right word to summarize it. Yes.
Okay, great. So, moving to the business side of things, so you started in 2019. There is a
Hmm.
theme that we talk about with innovation as well as companies, with larger companies, and that is digital transformation. Earlier, we
Hmm.
used to talk a lot about business transformation. If somebody was in a consultancy, in a top four consultancy, and somebody was
Hmm.
hiring a consultancy for some work, they would be talking about business transformation, which had various themes. Do you think business transformation has become more akin to digital transformation these days for companies?
I wouldn't say that, and the reason for that is I do see a big difference between business transformation and purely digital transformation.
Mm-hmm.
With business transformation, I would say you still need to focus a lot on the human aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it is included in a digital transformation as well, but I think the human component is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see right now, if it's purely a digital transformation, and I believe in that, digital, I do believe companies shouldn't miss the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Going from offline to online, but also embracing these
Mm-hmm.
new technologies. And if I say embracing, I also mean when it's suitable for them. So don't do it because everyone is doing it, but it needs to fit in your business model. Um,
Okay.
but what we do see, if we talk about digital and new technologies in digital, it does mean a lot of new um, uh, like employees need to be capable in having new skills or
Mm-hmm.
being upskilled to work with
Mm-hmm.
digital. So that is what I mean, and I also always say, do you know the devil's triangle? Do
Yeah.
you know? Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
people, the combination and the balance between people, processes, and systems is
Mm-hmm.
very important in any transformation.
Right. So one thing which the entire Middle East is famous for is hydrocarbons and their oil economy. And
Mhm.
when we talk about digital economy or new economy, we talk about AI, machine learning based, or robotics or blockchain. How do you see the penetration of that within the Middle East, or specifically in Dubai, that the place that you work with?
Yes, so if we're talking about Dubai and innovation, there are a lot of initiatives and there's a lot of focus on innovation. You already, and I think I mentioned it earlier, you do see government initiatives. There's even a full AI program
Mm-hmm.
initiated by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And it is also clear, like Dubai, of course, is not an oil emirate.
Right.
So they do have to focus on other things. And also during this time, we see again, because of COVID, like hospitality sector, as an example, is very much suffering. They
Right.
have to look also into like other options, other ideas, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Middle East, but definitely UAE. UAE wants to be leading in this innovation sector,
Mm-hmm.
and you see a push in a lot of different environments. So indeed, you see accelerators and incubators often even fully focused on innovative
Right.
startups.
Okay.
You even have like free zones here. You
Mm-hmm.
have, as an example, you have Sharjah Research, Technology and Innovation Park.
Mm-hmm.
They really have embraced like initiatives in these different types of sectors, but they all
Mm-hmm.
have something in common, and that's that innovative component. Yes, so I think it's a good move. I think there's a lot of things still to be done, a lot of challenges there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also a lot of people still have to get used to this new way and this new path towards new technology like AI, virtual reality. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier for younger people
Mm-hmm.
usually,
Mm-hmm.
but for a certain generation, it's scary. It is still very scary. Or they
Mm-hmm.
connect it with very expensive solutions,
Okay.
which is which is not per se the case.
Okay. So one last question would be more around the people aspect of it. So innovation being driven by companies, but people
Mhm,
accepting that innovation. So when I talk of people accepting it,
mhm.
do people like in India, do they hail ride-sharing services? Do they order food online on their smartphones? Do they seek repair services online or similar services? Do you see penetration of them as well in Dubai or within UAE or Middle East per se, that people are becoming more attuned to ordering these digital services? Uh, then only probably this digital innovation actually makes a lot of sense.
I agree with you because otherwise, if people wouldn't use it or wouldn't adapt it, what is like, why would you
Why would
do
you
it?
do it? Right.
Yes, no. So definitely, you already saw a certain movement of people embracing these digital, developments. So
Mm-hmm.
indeed, like ordering online or looking at like also VR solutions as an
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
But COVID gave it a push,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
because we couldn't go out, and also as an example for UAE, we were in full lockdown for a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Right.
So of course you go online, and it's not always a an extraordinary solution, of
Mm-hmm.
course, but also people who were really working on their self-development,
Mm-hmm.
they checked a lot of solutions in the education part,
Mm-hmm.
in the entertainment part.
Right.
So definitely, I see a good movement there, and it is worth further developing.
Okay, so before we conclude the talk, one last question. I'm a little bit greedy. Uh, if you had to forecast in next 10, 20 years, the scale of growth and innovation in Dubai, and you had to pick technologies, what will you pick?
Whoa, that that is a very difficult question because in general, like I have a lot of conversations with like business contacts, etc., friends, and we are already talking about we don't even know how the world will look like in 6 months from now
Mm-hmm.
because so many things are changing.
Right.
Uh, what I do think is a certain technology will develop, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
we already see things in very exciting sectors as the medical sector, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. I do see more and more like parts being, and this doesn't sound maybe nice, but being replaced with deeper AI, machine learning technology. But if I
Mm-hmm.
say replaced, I would like to say and emphasize it does mean that there is room for other activities where you would still need humans, where you
Right.
would still need like that interaction. Because I'm not an advocate of like moving out people and saying, okay, you are redundant or something,
Yeah.
but it does need other skills. So going back to your question, to really predict how it will look like in 10, 20 years, it's difficult. We might need to actually look towards Asia, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. You
Yeah.
already see a lot of technological developments there.
Right.
Also, like a while ago, you saw these robots, these drones
Mm.
already like delivering medication, delivering,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Uh, we haven't seen it like that in our environment yet. But I think we have a movement there. We have a direction and we have some steps to go.
Okay, great. It was a pleasure connecting with you today, Kirsten. I'm sure our listeners would be very indebted to you for bringing perspective from Middle East. Thanks for your time today. And if there are any follow-up questions for you, I'll be happy to send them over to you as well.
Super. Sounds great. Thank you very much for your time. And it was great talking to you.
Great. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye.